What's up, everybody? Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback. Today we are looking at the X-Men, issue number 105. This issue came out in June of 1977, and what a cover we have today. That's right, we have the X-Men going up against Firelord, but we see here that Phoenix is going to be the last one to fight Firelord. Yes, we're looking at the first battle with Phoenix. This is the first time that Jean Grey is going to be able to use her powers as the Phoenix, and we're going to just see how powerful the Phoenix actually is as she goes up against Firelord. Now, if you don't know too much about Firelord, he was a herald of Galactus. He was a former herald of Galactus, and he is on the search for the X-Men. We have a lot to cover here today. I'm glad you're here. Before we get started, go ahead and give this video a like, click that bell so that you'll be notified as well when you'll get more videos just like this. So now let's go ahead and get started. As always, this is brought to you by Chris Claremont, Dave Cockrum, Bob Layton, Tom Orrs, Andy Yunkus, and Archie Goodwin. Now remember from last issue we left off with a bit of a cliffhanger where we had Eric the Red, Polaris, and Havoc. They were all standing outside of the X Mansion, and now it looks like Eric the Red has gone into the headquarters of the X Mansion, and the X-Men are going to fight him down here. As we see here that Cyclops is gathering around the troops, and now we're going to launch right into a big battle scene here. So we see Colossus, he punches Eric the Red. We have Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm, Banshee, Nightcrawler, all of these great X-Men, classic X-Men, and all of a sudden, as they're taking down Eric the Red, we see Firelord shows up at the last minute, and they're shocked to see Firelord because this is the first confrontation Firelord has had with the X-Men. Now, Firelord has fought Thor in the past, but this is the first meeting between Firelord and the X-Men, so they're not too familiar with Firelord here. We see that Nightcrawler thinks of himself as the weakest member of the X-Men, but he's going to launch his attack on Firelord, but Firelord easily takes him out. And so all mayhem is just breaking loose. We see here that Firelord lets go of some of his energy beams here, which causes more mayhem to erupt within the X-Mansion, and we see that Firelord catches up with Eric the Red, and now we're going to see exactly what happened last issue. We didn't see any of this last issue, so Eric the Red catches us up to date here, as we see here that after the X-Men fought Magneto, and we know that Magneto escaped last issue, we see here that Eric the Red, Havoc, and Polaris saw that Firelord was in the premises, and so Eric the Red was going to use that to his advantage here. So by the time Firelord arrived on the scene, we see here that Havoc and Polaris looked like they had taken down Eric the Red, and they launch their attack on Firelord. Firelord falls down, but then he's going to take out Havoc and Polaris. We see here that then Eric the Red tells Firelord that he is in search of Professor Xavier because the X-Men seek to rule the world, and he's going to try to stop that. And so he is fooling Firelord here by saying that the X-Men is trying to rule the world. Now, we will also recall how Professor Xavier has had these visions, these dreams of this spaceship here, and now we're going to finally reveal the identity of who is flying this spaceship. We come to find out that this person that's flying this ship is Princess Lilandra, Nermani, and she used to be a Grand Admiral of the Imperial Fleet. And we also find out here that she led a great rebellion. And so we see here that she is being chased down by one of her captains here, and that captain has been ordered to take her down because the Emperor, her brother, gave the say-so. So this entire time, this we see here this Grand Admiral, who is Princess Lilandra, she is trying to seek refuge by going to the Earth. That's where her destination is at. And so we find out here that Princess Lilandra's, we see here that her captain realizes that the Earth has been fighting back Galactus, and they were successful for 4 times in a row. So that causes the captain to turn the ship around, because we are not going to face these Earthlings knowing that they were successful in beating Galactus 4 times. And so we see here at the last minute that Lilandra phases out of existence here, and then one of the torpedoes launches into her fleet here. And now let's catch up with Professor Xavier, Jean Grey, Misty Knight, and Jean Grey's parents here. They all look like they are visiting Jean Grey and Misty Knight's house here. We learned that Misty Knight and Jean Grey decided to room together. They become roommates, and they're pretty good friends. So while they're all talking, all of a sudden we see Princess Lilandra phase into existence here right in the middle of the living room. And what's shocking about this is that Professor Xavier says it's a Lilandra, and he's never even met this person. So that's pretty shocking. We see here that Jean Grey and Misty Knight take off Lilandra's armor, and they discover how beautiful she is, when all of a sudden there is a commotion, and guess who is here? It is Firelord. So Firelord is going to be seeking Professor Xavier this entire time. As we know, Jean Grey turns into the Phoenix, and she says, "Mom, Dad, I'll explain everything later." And so this is where we see the big fight between Phoenix and Firelord. And we know how Jean Grey, she used to be Marvel Girl, used to be one of the weakest members of the X-Men, but now she is actually the strongest member of the X-Men. And she easily takes down Firelord, who also is pretty strong. It's also cool here we see that Dave Cockrum and Chris Claremont also make an appearance in this issue. They drew themselves into this issue, so that's pretty funny here. We see here that Eric the Red is watching Phoenix and Firelord fight, and so he's watching from a distance. We see that Eric the Red shows up, and we learn here that this is not really Eric the Red. This entire time, this has been Shikari. Now, Shikari is actually somebody that's been looking for Lilandra, and so he's been sent by the Emperor here to take down Lilandra, because Lilandra has been a refugee. She's been trying to escape because she led that big rebellion where she's from. So this entire time, this has not been Eric the Red. This has been somebody been searching for Lilandra the entire time. So the puzzle pieces are starting to form together here. We see that the X-Men gather here, and they're going to take down this fake Eric the Red here. And so a lot of great action while Phoenix is continuing to fight Firelord here. I mean, this is just nothing but great action here. Awesome stuff here, as always, drawn by Dave Cockrum. We see here that all of a sudden we see Eric the Red, who is the fake Eric the Red, gathers Lilandra and gets into this portal, and we see here that the X-Men were too late to save Lilandra from the hands of this Shikari fella. And so we see here that Professor Xavier is so anxious about this, because he tells the X-Men they have to save Lilandra, because if they don't, bad things are going to happen. The fate of the universe is at stake here. And so how are they going to go save Lilandra? Well, we see here that Phoenix is going to use some of her power to open up a portal. She has that raw power to do that. And Cyclops is like, wow, where did Jean get all of this, ability to do that? When we know how she gained that ability back in issue 101. But this is the first issue we see here where Jean Grey was able to use her power to her advantage. And we also learn within that fight with Firelord that the more she uses her power, the more she wants to use it to her advantage, and it's like a drug. So we'll learn more about that later, but we see here the X-Men are going to go after Lilandra now, and this is where we leave the issue off here, and we see that Firelord is looking for the Phoenix. And so how is Professor Xavier and Misty Knight going to defend themselves against an angry Firelord? And will the X-Men be able to save Lilandra? We're going to find all this out next issue as we look at issue number 106. Hope to see you then, and until next time, keep reading comics.